Xenoblade 3, put simply, is everything I wanted and then some, despite the game ending leaving me with more questions than answers. Now, of course, if you didn't see the title or the thumbnail, I don't know how, but this video is going to contain heavy spoilers for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and so yeah, I've been giving myself a pretty good amount of time to process Xenoblade 3, and I'm probably going to get back into it today, finishing up some side quests. But I finished the main story, and honestly, the gameplay is a spiritual successor to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, although I do feel that there is a lot for anyone who's played Xenoblade 1 or 2, but especially if you've played both, there is a huge amount of references. This world is clearly a forced, unintentional fusion between the worlds of 1 and 2, as the way the worlds came together, especially with the Annihilation event. It's clear that these are not stable worlds. It seems that because of instability caused by the endings in 1 and 2, Klaus being completely destroyed and the conduit vanishing, there was nothing keeping the worlds separate and stable, and thus they began to grow towards each other and merged. However, this entire game we're playing as is the world of 1 and 2 frozen in time in the moment of being fused. They're fused in the entirety of Xenoblade 3, yet it seems like they were never meant to stay fused, as the ending shows that the worlds essentially just pass through each other. The entire cycle of war and fighting is just to preserve one moment. The world of Ionios is this one moment. However, after defeating Zed and stopping the war and destroying all the flame clocks, there is nothing keeping this world frozen. The whole point of the consoles was to keep the world frozen in this moment, and this would also help fuel the selfish desire of N to keep Mio to himself. Similarly to the endings of 1 and 2, it shows the imperfection of humanity through the lens of N, particularly how a selfish desire could cause someone to ignore the value of life. However, there will always be hope. There will always be those that strive for justice, that will strive and fight for the right thing, and will push against these selfish desires. Being the main party are those that are standing outside of just just accepting this as it is, fighting against this injustice, despite the injustice being widely accepted. The right decision always proves itself to be the most difficult decision, seeing as how at the end of the story, even though the war is over, the constant cycle of dying and killing, it's ended, but it results in the party having to accept, as seen in the final conversation that the party has with Melia and Nia. They accept the future and refuse to become Mobius, as it is offered to them, but they refuse to become Mobius and keep the world in this state. However, without keeping the world in this frozen state, that means the world would continue. And this present moment that have been on hold for thousands of years. We know that technically the events of this game take place over thousands of years, but the actual world is frozen. It is confirmed in multiple points of the game that it's thousands of years. However, this just was a present frozen moment. The party openly in the ending sacrifices their own desires for the better of others, which is a common trend for some of the greatest figures in humanity, whether it be religious or historical figures, making that sacrifice for the better of humanity. And it shows, despite the imperfections of humanity, there's always going to be that hope. And that sometimes, if you don't see it, you have to take up the challenge and be that hope, as we see the party taking up the huge challenge of becoming a clear enemy of both sides and fighting for something that they feel, and of course, we know to be right. However, it is the most difficult path they could have chosen. easily they could have just let the world continue and fight, and the war and the cycle of death could continue, but they did not. This is the hope that humans can create. This was ultimately the part that broke me and made me start crying. The ending felt satisfying at first because it seemed like the world was going to continue in a new state without war, but instead the party was separated in the ending. Through the course of the story, you get so attached to these characters in a way that only Xenoblade games can make you feel attached to characters, and the futures of both worlds are left open-ended, in typical Xenoblade fashion, of course. But knowing that the party clearly love each other as a family, and specifically each pair, like Noah and Mio, Senna, and Lance, you can see that there's that romantic connection between each of the main party members and their partner. Noah and Mia have the most explicit connection, of course, because they kiss at the ending. But as the party runs towards each other as the worlds separate, it is clear that they all have learned what it truly means to love someone, yet at the same time they also learn the pain of loss. They see the pain of loss with their comrades dying, but this is different because it is a completely different level, because they developed deep feelings for these other people, which was existing in the world, but this is different because this wasn't just comrade love that they were just having to get used to because that was the way of the world. This was love of people that they were striving together for, and so they were changing the world. And so having to lose that was, my god, I was losing it at the end. But the pain of loss is what N and Z were trying to avoid in this continued cycle of war, never wanting to deal and accept with grief, yet it is something we all must do. It would seem that if given the opportunity, of course, you wouldn't want to lose somebody, yet the consequences and the cost of trying to uphold that only make you more selfish. I remember when my grandma passed away, she had COVID. We could have kept her alive if we wanted to. Well, quote unquote. We would have to put a trach in her throat, but the damage was already done. The state that she would be in if we decided to try and prolong her life was one of the hardest decisions, we had to make, right? And we came to the decision that if we tried to make a decision if we tried to prolong grandma's life, it would make only us as the family more selfish, because she would have been in a severely damaged state, as she had already been in a coma for about a couple months at that point. So keeping her alive, she would just be alive to hook to a machine. And yeah, anyway, side tangent. I'm not gonna go into that because anyway, personal connection if you didn't know. But anyway, nature is going to unfold ultimately, and there's nothing you can do about it. And the party, knowing that, would feel that immense pain of loss that I mentioned in my particular instance, and I know a lot of you who have experienced loss will understand that. And so we see the main party deal with that. They were fighting for what was right, but damn, it's like the ending is good. It's what's supposed to happen, but it proves that, again, doing what's right is never the easy way. Anyone who has experienced loss, going through those last few scenes is heavily emotional, with the party crying out to each other as they say they're going to try to find a way to see each other again, leading to a future of uncertainty, yet always having that drive of wanting to see those you love again is essentially what life is. You go through loss, yet religion, spirituality, drive, hope, faith, a lot of these things allow us to strive beyond our losses, and holding these feelings of those we lost as we go through, as holding those feelings of those we lost as we continue to go through. We may not see them, we may not see them currently, but our time and bonds we had with them are everlasting. That personally, after the ending scene, we see the beginning of the game resume with young Noah seemingly the entire game restarts. Except it's young Noah as a kid, and if you pay attention, he does not have a tattoo anymore, and the world has people who are clearly in like loving relationships, which was new to the party because loving relationships was something that they removed from the world because it would not allow this frozen moment, right? And so the future that they fought for, it's unclear if the kid remembers everything, kid Noah remembers everything. But we know by the final dialogue by Mio that she is still able to have a record of everything that happens. And she said that her memory may fade, but the events are never changing. So she can remember, but they're fading. But she wrote everything down. She still has her logbook, her diary. As we grow older, we may forget those in our past, yet the impact they have on our lives are set in stone and will never change, regardless of what happens in the future. Again, anyone who's experienced loss, I'm pretty sure is everyone. Losing a loved one that is really close to you will make that ending of Xenoblade 3 hit really hard. And it's really what made me cry for like a good 20 minutes after the ending during the credits. I was just sobbing, I was just sobbing. So that was like my kind of recap of the end, and my general thoughts connecting to the my personal feelings. But then I did also make a video previously talking about how Shulk and Rex were erased because if their legacies were present, it would not allow for this continual cycle of killing to persist. It seems that this frozen moment, anyone that would oppose the war from the two games were seemingly erased for a period of time, except Melia and Nia, maybe the people from Swordmark and City. However, the difference is Melia and Nia are the only two people confirmed to be from the worlds of Xenoblade 1 and 2, and there is a high possibility that I would think that the worlds go back to their way before with a sense of normalcy after the end of 3. It is not clear if Shulk is still alive because Melia has his weapon. However, given the way Xenoblade 1 ended, it would seem like there would not be a need for a powerful weapon like the Monado replica because the main conflict was resolved, and especially after Future Connected, there wasn't really a looming threat. The Fog King was pretty much dissipated. But Melia did say thank you everyone while she was looking at the replica Monado. That could mean she's getting ready to go back to see them, but that's not really as clear. However, it seems heavily likely that Rex is still alive because Nia explicitly says, "I will see you soon." I'm confident that Rex is still alive because the only picture we see that Nia has is a picture of an adult Rex that man literally got with Pyra, Mithra, and Nia. So we thought Nia was friend zoned, but no. Rex got himself with all three. That is, I don't think anyone would have expected that. Literally, I stared at that picture at the end of all of them together. I was just staring at it for like, I can't tell you how long. I was just staring at it. But regardless, if Rex had died, I would think that picture would depict we see a older Rex, but he's still young because it's like maybe around mid to late 20s, and Pyra, Mithra, and Nia all still look young. Nia still looks young. If Rex was dead, I would think that the picture would picture a much older Rex with his adult kids, yet it shows Rex, Pyra, and Mithra all with babies, young babies. As a mother, I find it highly unlikely that the only picture for Nia to have of her baby and her husband Rex, or baby daddy Rex, I find it highly unlikely that the only picture she would have would be just a child. I think that this picture would be very, very recent at the time of the game, freezing, right? And so I would find it unlikely. If Rex is dead, why would the picture you have be of younger Rex? I get that was a younger time, but I would think you would have a picture of an elderly Rex with your adult kid if he was dead. But I cannot accept. I don't think Rex is dead. I think when the worlds resume, Rex is going to go back to that, right? Additionally, we know that the flesh eaters do age. They age slower, but we see this between Minoth and between the events of Torn and Xenoblade 2. 500 years apart, Minoth goes from looking like a pretty young guy to looking really elderly. However, it is stated that this phenomenon is not consistent, and so Mia, this is not consistent, right? But regardless, if there was an actual like significant age difference, Mia nor Melia would look young, right? So I think that the frozen moment could take place a couple of decades after the ending of Xenoblade 1 and 2. But if it was like the frozen moment that the worlds were frozen together, if that was a moment that was thousands of years in the future, Melia and Nia would both look significantly older, yet they do not. So I think that the events of Xenoblade 3 only take place in a frozen period of time, maybe a couple decades, potentially years after Xenoblade 3. Regardless, I have so many more videos to talk about, breaking down a whole bunch of aspects of Xenoblade 3. So I'm sorry I took a break. I've been having a lot going on, prepping for school, doing a lot of work, and then I just was playing through the game a lot. But best believe the content I did a lot before Xenoblade 3, that stuff like that's going to resume. I'm probably going to do it on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type vibe. We'll see. But best believe, make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know what your favorite part about Xenoblade 3 is. We're going to start getting into spoiler videos, but I will try to make the videos spoiler friendly as of right now, and then maybe a couple months down the line we'll start making I'll try and make the video thumbnails more clear. But I'll let y'all know going forward, a lot of content we're going to be covering in regards to Xenoblade 3 is going to be spoiler heavy. So if you haven't beaten the game, go beat the game. And yeah, so I'm so excited to get into discussing Xenoblade 3, the future. What does this mean in the context of Xenoblade? There was a lot I could have discussed, but I wanted to keep this video mindful. I didn't want to be it as long. I could easily talk about this game for another few hours, but I recorded this video a couple of times. I actually was trying to do it freehand, and I couldn't. There was too much. So I was reading off a script a little bit, but the script I wrote was my free thoughts, right? And I didn't really go through and edit it that much, so it's still raw. But regardless, I hope y'all are excited. We're gonna start pumping out the Xenoblade content again. Additionally, I'm gonna pump out some other content. Let me know what other games you want to see me cover in the comment section below. I do want to do more commentary videos on things other than Xenoblade. I love Xenoblade, of course. I literally spent like over 60 hours in Xenoblade 3, so if I didn't love this game, I wouldn't be playing it that much. But anyway, I love y'all. Thank y'all for the massive amount of support on Xenoblade 3, and I can't wait to continue to follow Monolith Soft's games with y'all. See y'all in the next video.